Hello, everybody, and welcome to the LFC Transfer Room. Thank you for bearing with us, a little bit delayed. Thank you for joining me on the watch along if you're coming over from there. It is post-match reaction for the Merseyside derby, and it has, of course, finished Everton 0, Liverpool 0. Another frustrating draw for the Reds. 6 games played. Was it 4? Hang on. We only won 1 game all season. How mental is that to think about? No, 2 games, sorry. 2 games out of 6 we've won. Even that. It's crazy. It's crazy. And you can tell by my haircut that it's crazy. We'll get into that, of course, and please do get your thoughts and feelings and opinions in on everything to do with that game. The finish, the team lineup, the substitutions, the players themselves, the manager. Please do get your opinions in. Gary, thank you very much. He's opted straight for the hot topic, and he said it was utter shite. Let's talk positives first. There weren't many. I think Joe Gomez was brilliant. He made mistakes, and I know someone will point them out to me. I know he made mistakes. A really bad clearance that almost resulted in an Everton goal. A couple of long-range passes that didn't come off, but I'm not going to nail someone down for that, because if you disencourage that, then there's no creativity in the team whatsoever. So I don't have a problem with that. That's fine. No problem at all. So Joe Gomez was a positive. Yeah, I'll send you the link. Joe Gomez was a massive positive. 100%. And I think that's what made it harder. I think that's what made it harder for Klopp to bring on Milner instead of what's his bloody name? I'm trying to do 2 things at once here. Instead of Matip, right? Because Gomez was playing well. So the last thing that Klopp wanted to do when we looked a bit dodgy on the counter attack was move his very quick and very well performing centre back to right back to bring on Matip, who's been out in the cold and not look. And you can't throw him in a Merseyside derby unless you have to. So he brings on Milner, and it's very clear that that's not going to work, and he's past his best, etc., etc. And then eventually he brings on Milner anyway, Matip anyway. So it was a bit of a wasted substitution, and if anything, it did hold us back. Some people were saying we should have started James Milner, and that it was a risk to go with how we played. I think Milner's performance put it to bed. Like we spoke about his legs and protecting him, and he should come on in the second half, etc., etc. But today has shown that even that isn't going to cut it. He was blowing. He was blowing by the. He came on in the 60th minute, and by the 77th, his legs were gone. He was chucking in challenges left, right, and centre because he knew he couldn't catch them. He couldn't catch the attackers. He couldn't stop the counter attacks, etc. So he just knew that he had to go in and try to either foul or do something else. Just bear with me a minute. We've got guests coming on. So he was forced into that change, kind of of his own doing. But Joe Gomez playing well didn't help the cause, is what I'm trying to say, basically. Owen,
Right.
how are you?
To be honest with you, kind of lost for words right now. It's been a bad start to the season. I don't think anyone can get around that. I think everyone is in agreement now that something's not right. I don't know what it is, but yeah, like the fact that we didn't dominate that game, I don't think we did. I think it was very 50-50, very even, both chances for both teams. So I think they easily could have won the game if we're being completely honest. And that had the disallowed goal with Connor Cody. Very unlucky there. Hit the post with Davis as well. So yeah, I'm just kind of in shock and disbelief right now.
Anthony's just joining as well. Anthony, can you hear us?
I can indeed.
How's first thoughts on that game?
Bit disappointing, obviously. I thought performance-wise, it weren't like the worst we've seen from us this season, but the finishing was awful, and obviously we could say Pickford had a good game, but we should have won. We should have won before the match. Like, yeah, Everton are rubbish, and we just made them look really good today, and yeah, disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, let's try and start with the positives because I feel like there's probably more negatives to talk about. If we had to talk about a best performer from that game, Owen, who would you have gone for?
Alisson. Has to be Alisson Becker. Thinking around the whole team. Van Dijk wasn't really at it today. Midfield, Harvey Elliott, Fabio Carvalho, they both looked very underwhelming. Not kind of how we've been used to seeing them the past weeks. They've been not with the positives, but yeah, today they were kind of non-existent. Fabinho, yeah, he struggled as well. And then the forward line, Darwin Núñez didn't really get into it. Had very few touches. Mohamed Salah was very quiet. I know he had that chance late on, and then the other winger, Luis Diaz, he had an all right game. I thought he played pretty well. And got unlucky at times. Like, always wanted to take on a man, which was good to see. But yeah, I think it has to be Alisson Becker man of the match.
Anthony, similar thoughts on that one, or a different best performer, best of a bad bunch?
I'll probably say Gomez. I thought he played really well, and same with Van Dijk. I thought he played well as well. But it was just the some of the performances from the players. Like Owen touched on the forwards, are barely getting any touches, and I don't know what that's down to. Like, it felt like Salah was always hogging the ball last season. Same with Diaz, but now it's like they're barely getting any touches, and they're really involved in the game. And it's not even rare. We've seen this all season, and something's got to change because we're not going to score without them. And we saw it today. But whenever they do have the ball, we look like scoring. And Núñez, I thought when he did have the ball, he looked pretty good. And same with Salah and Diaz, like Owen touched on. He had a fairly decent game, but all around it weren't a great performance from them. But I thought Gomez and Van Dijk were standouts as well.
Jack, good to see you. Can you just confirm, first of all, that is not a Donald Trump hat? And second of all, if you had to, who is your highest performer from that game?
The big T. The big T. No, it's the Texas Rangers hat. It's a baseball team in Texas. Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Owen was saying on Alisson. I think, to be honest, there weren't a ton of players who, like, I think individually were bad today. I mean, Milner off the bench looked a little weak, but he had to like come into a match of really high intensity. So I can almost forgive that a little bit that he wasn't able to get up to speed as quick as he might like to. I might say Diaz. I think Diaz was the guy whenever he got the ball. He didn't have like a great standout moment. He had the time he hit the post, but every time he got the ball, that was the time where I was like, okay, maybe something could happen. That's fitting with him as a player. The rest of the team kind of just, it was frustrating. I was very rational and very reasonable in our WhatsApp group chats as always. Yeah, and I'm sure I'll look at this a little differently in a day or so. But overall, I think for Diaz, just for the threat that I felt when he got the ball, he kept me awake in my very, very tired slumber early in this match. So that's how I'd go with Louis.
Let's talk about certain periods of the game. The one that I want to touch on most was that first 15 minutes in the second half when it looked like we were starting to build some pressure, and then it just kind of evaporated. I think some of you guys might feel like that was the substitutes. Personally, I felt like it was kind of falling off just before the subs came on anyway, but I digress. Owen, what were your thoughts on that? And like, why couldn't we make it last? What happened?
I don't get the substitutes at all from Klopp. I really don't. Like Kostas Tsimikas, I thought he had a really, really good game, really positive. Like, he was always trying to make things happen. He was driving on the ball, getting on the ball, even off the ball. He was physical. He was up to the challenge. I don't understand why he took him off before the hour mark. I really just in disbelief at that. And then whenever like Andy Robertson's been taken off in the past, it's always been sort of 75, 80 minutes. Oh, we'll give Kostas a little cameo. So why is that different for Andy Robertson? What this is favoritism that just isn't warranted by anything. And then Trent being taken off, I don't really understand that either, if I'm being completely honest. I can understand maybe resting him, the upcoming busy schedule, but at the same time, he's had an all right game. And yeah, Milner at right back, it's not ideal, is it, for 10 minutes? And then, yeah, Everton just get on top. Everton take the opportunity, and it kind of felt like they just got the ball in our half and had a bit of possession there. And it kind of rattled us, really. And then after that, then, yeah, we just couldn't get out. We couldn't break. And yeah, it was really concerning that like nowadays, whenever we're creating chances, it feels like we're relying more on individual brilliance rather than just going relentless and intensity. So yeah, something's missing at the minute, and I can't put my finger on it in the minute, but I'm sure over the next week or so we'll be able to find out what's exactly wrong.
Anthony, what were your thoughts on those substitutions? Because I think they did raise a lot of questions with a lot of people.
They were awful. I thought the Milner one, Klopp needs to explain these substitutions after the match, man. Honestly, you've got your best. I thought Trent had a decent match, and you just don't take him off. Like there was opportunities in the first half where he could hit a long ball over the top, which none of our other players can do realistically. Maybe Tsimikas, but he's just got that ability where he could just hit one ball and we're in on goal and can score from it. And Nunes almost scored from that volley. I think that was from Trent, and it just didn't make sense. And 2 minutes, he just could have kept him on for 2 minutes. It would have got me extra 5 points in fantasy, but he's just ruined it. And same with the Tsimikas one, like Owen said. What was the point of taking off Tsimikas for Robertson? It just doesn't make any sense. And it's just such a sort of recurring theme for Klopp, man. His substitutions have been awful this season. Besides the Fulham match, they've been really, really bad. And he just needs to fix up. Stop with this sort of favouritism, keeping Robertson and giving him minutes and giving Milner minutes. He's got to explain that sub because it just didn't make any sense. We look rubbish. We look like conceding. And we did concede, obviously. But obviously it was given offside. But we should have conceded 1 or 2 in that as soon as Milner came on the pitch. He was awful.
Look, I'm sympathetic to the subs from Klopp personally. I don't agree with either of them. I think that the Milner was terrible, and I get that Trent hasn't been great recently. And like I'm sympathetic.
Well, Jack, what I wanted to ask you about that was I mentioned this before you guys came on, and I'm probably wide of the mark as I am with many things on this, but do you think that substitution, because Matip is there and Gomez can play right back, do you think any part of it was to do with the fact that, and this depends on your interpretation of Gomez's performance, I think he played really well. Do you think that called into question for Klopp, like, I can't move him across to the right because he's playing so well at centre back. He's got that pace. He's covered us on a few counter attacks. Maybe I can't move him to the right, and therefore the next logical solution for him was to put Milner there. And then when he realised that wasn't working, put him into the midfield, move Matip, move Gomez over to the right. Do you think that had any impact on it?
I would say it probably could have. That wouldn't have been my line of thinking personally. Because I agree, Gomez was solid. I think I was a little critical of him in the chat because I do prefer Matip as a long-term option, but today he didn't really put a foot wrong. So I don't think I can sit here and say he was doing poor. And at right back, he was he did his job as well. But like, I don't know. When I saw it was Milner, because it was Milner and Robertson coming on, I assumed there's no way he was taking off both fullbacks. I assumed it had to be for Elliott because I just because Firmino was on at that point. I was not like an Elliott in the pivot. So that one just didn't make sense to me. I agree, Anthony. Like I would love to get the rationale for that. Maybe he had some sort of like reasoning that is beyond me. But the on the face of it, Milner just did not make much sense. And even if he was playing well at center back, Louis, Matip right center back, Gomez right back was just a better option. Just a better option for us overall, and that would have supported Elliott much better as one of the guys in the pivot, because then you would have had 2 functional defenders behind him versus Milner, who just couldn't get up to the pace of the match when he came on, which was disappointing to see.
Matty, good to see you. Hope you're all right. I'm sure you've got a lot to say, and we will get into that. Just at the minute, we're talking about those substitutions sort of midway through the second half, because we were better in the first 15, and then it felt like after those subs, it then kind of swung back in Everton's favour. What's your take on all of that?
I don't think the subs were too bad, to be honest with you. If we're being honest, James Milner, when he's played for us prior to today, he's been our best player when he's came on. When he started, he has been for the age he is. Trent has been crap all year, so I think he deserved to be ragged off and shown now his position isn't untouchable, so to speak. I think Costas played well. I would have kept him on rather than Robbo, to be honest with you. I think that's the only one that I think he got wrong. I think Costas played really, really well, better than what Robertson did when he came on. Best than what Robertson has for most of the season. But the logic of bringing Milner on, moving Gomez to the right back position, I think worked, because then we went to the double pivot, and I don't really fancy Elliott in that double pivot. He's too much of an attacking midfielder to be trying to play the defensive role. The only thing I might say is why not throw Artur on, who actually is a defensive midfielder. I know it's a derby, but he is fit. Why not throw him on? Give him a game to prove himself in that. I know it's a hard game, but for myself, I personally would have brought Artur on. But yeah, Milner played bad, but you've got to cut him some slack, really, because he's been our best player in the midfield for the first 5 games.
On James Milner, Owen, you're one of James Milner's biggest proprietors, and all credit to you on that one. It's hard to defend that performance, though. I mean, you could argue at right back he's allowed to maybe not play as well because that's not his natural position, but he had some time in midfield and it didn't look great, did it?
No, it didn't. It just looked very sort of discombobulated in the centre. There's no real connections. I remember in the first half, on the right-hand side, we had Trent, Harvey Elliott and Salah were all linking up really well, really precise play. And then second half at times, or even towards the first half, it just all kind of fell apart. And yeah, I don't know what it was. Maybe you could put it down to fatigueness. That's what it kind of looked like at times. But we shouldn't be getting this 6 games into the season, should we? It's like, if you're getting this Christmas time, you go, fair enough. But yeah, the Champions League, League Cup, those games haven't even kicked in yet. And yeah, to be fair, it's not really time to be reactionary, saying, oh yeah, season's done, we're not going to win anything, because in some competitions the ball hasn't even been kicked yet. But at the same time, now Premier League, I'm sure we're going to get into this because we've been having this discussion in the group chat. I think the league now up against Man City, who, yeah, they just don't drop points really, do they? I just think it's going to be really, really hard to catch them. And yeah, we're going to need to put together a run, because from what we've seen already, you can't win consecutive games. And to win a league title, you've got to just win game after game.
I mean, Anissa makes a point. I don't blame Milner. It's on Klopp for playing him. And, I'm sure we'll talk about, Jurgen Klopp's decisions and what we think about that and what have you. Jack, I think quite an interesting thing which may go under the radar today is that we actually did play officially a 4-2-3-1 / a 4-2-4, whichever way you look at it. It didn't feel like that was necessarily the plan at any point until the substitution was made. We've played a 4-3-3 consistently for 4 or 5 years, and then second half against Everton to suddenly actually put Firmino in the 10 role, which he hasn't played there for years. Is that a little bit panicky?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was the most. I don't think Klopp wants to in an ideal world. I don't think so in the slightest. I thought Firmino looked tremendous off the bench. Personally, I thought he looked really, really sharp. His link up play was good. It improved from recent weeks. He was getting shots off. He's playing with a lot of confidence. I like his role off the bench. I'm glad Núñez started. But my issue was, it wasn't more. So I've always had reservations with the shape personally, because I'm like, what is the functional difference between a 4-3-3 with 8s who are pretty aggressive and a 4-2-3-1? It's pretty tight at times, because you would see Fabinho and Elliott would be very high up the pitch even when they were playing that pivot, so they would be dragged out pretty easily. I thought it was okay considering the personnel. I think I agree with Matty. I think Artur, he would have been his better option, I think, than Elliott in this match in the pivot. He's more comfortable there. I don't know. That to me was a little odd. We learned something from it. But I think obviously in an ideal world, and I think I said in the first half, I hope Carvalho doesn't have any injuries. He only had that knock of knees, so I'm hoping that he's fine there, because he didn't look great as left center mid, but that was also because he had to play a role that I'm not sure is best suited to him. Because he has to the build up play was really weak when both the 8s were more progressive and the fullbacks weren't kind of inverting to help out either. So then it kind of was just like Fabinho, Gomez, and Van Dijk were tasked in the first half with building up play by themselves. And that was difficult because, they're not bad players, obviously, but they were forced into an area of their game where when they weren't supported as well, it affected them a little bit. I don't know, Louis, were you a fan of the shape when you saw it? Because I know you've been a bit of a proponent for it for a while.
No, I kind of agree with what you said in terms of the difference is slim. The only thing that made it a more rigid 4-2-3-1 was having Firmino as an out-and-out 10 or a shadow striker. Other than that, essentially turn into a 4-2-3-1 when we're attacking with the right-sided 8. That's what happens. So I'm not really that fussed like what formation comes out on the team sheet, but it's where Firmino plays that is quite key in that sense. I don't see it. Well, maybe this is the day he decides to go all out on it. I don't know. But have we got 2 midfielders who are fit, who can play in the pivot comfortably? I don't know. Anthony, what's your take on that and the formation switch?
I think you both sort of touched on it. Like we sort of move into a 4-2-3-1 anyway when we're playing 4-3-3. So it's not really that deep. But I thought Firmino probably played well, to be fair, when he came on, and he actually made an impact as a sub. But I'm not a fan of the 4-2-3-1. I'd say stick to 4-3-3. It's worked up until this point. Oh, sorry, my charger just fell. But yeah, obviously it's good to change. But I just think we've not got enough fit midfielders to play that 2 role. Whereas Elliott didn't look good there. We were getting overrun, and that's the sort of point in which the game changed, where we were attacking and getting in behind and stuff. But against Everton, and as soon as we made the subs and changed 4-2-3-1, we looked a bit of a shambles. But towards the end, I'm not sure what formation we were playing, but we looked better towards the end. Last 5 minutes, was it? Last 5-10 minutes, where Jota came on, and we were just getting in behind so easily. Like, there was so much space in the midfield, and I just think, I don't know, man. With our injury crisis in midfield, you never know. But I do agree, Arthur should have came on, and him and Fabinho together could have maybe won us the match, but I think it's more to do with finishing our chances, to be honest.
Matty, I feel like you've got a lot to say, so I just want to kind of just let you rip on this one.
About which? The game?
Everything, yeah. Emre Can, the game.
Tear into me, Matty. Go after me.
Was awful for Liverpool. Definitely. If we're saying we miss Emre Can, we've won the Premier League and the Champions League and Everton since then, so miss them dead loads. But my issues with people who think the season's done. Do you know what I mean? Like, I remember sitting on a stream in November, December last year, arguing that Liverpool could still win everything. And then come the end of the year, everyone was on the same side as me. Like, it's been 6 games. City can drop points as well. There's a World Cup in the middle of the season where City have got a lot more players going than what we have. And the fact it's in Qatar, it's fucking players' body clocks up, etc., etc. Liverpool haven't got many going to the World Cup. If we go through the squad, there's not many there going. The league's not done. We're still going to win the Champions League. Yeah, we might not win the cup competitions, but I honestly think we'll win the league still, because everyone's saying City are this unbelievable side, but Newcastle battered them the other week. Battered them. City were lucky to get a draw. So if Newcastle can do that, why can't Arsenal beat them? Why can't United beat them? Why can't Chelsea beat them? The Premier League's the hardest league in the whole world. The whole world. Yet City have got Haaland, the best striker in the world. He's a freak of nature, whatever. He's going to score 40, 50 goals, probably. But then City have also only got 5 midfielders. So if they have 1 or 2 injuries to their midfield, like what Liverpool have, they're in a worse situation than what we are. Liverpool, when fully fit, are the strongest side in world football, and I mean that. And we've got players coming back. Thiago's back next week. We've welcomed Jota and Matty back today. We've got Jones back as well. So the depth's coming back. We've just brought Arthur in. Liverpool, yeah, they haven't started the season fantastically, but in January, they're like 20 points off winning the league until it's the final day. And if Gerrard wouldn't have brought Coutinho off, Liverpool probably would have won the league last year. If the thing that didn't happen outside the Stade de France didn't happen, Liverpool probably would have won the Champions League as well. And then no one would be moaning. Like, this is the same 11 bar Sadio Mane that took Liverpool closer than any side in world football's ever went before to win the quadruple in English football. And we've added Núñez into it. Diaz came in January, but was meant to be a summer signing. And then we brought Carvalho in as well. People say, oh, we haven't replaced Tahi and Origi. Origi, yeah, probably would have won us the game today because that's what Origi does. However, let's be serious. For the other 36 games in the year, he's absolutely awful. He's terrible. He's only good for the Everton game. Tahi was boss for us last year, and I'm gutted that he did go, to be fair. But then it's that age-old question: why would a player sit and only play in the cup games for Liverpool when he can go and play every week? You can't hate him for that. He probably wanted to move. I refuse to believe that Liverpool sold him off their own back. Similar to Mane, we wouldn't have sold Mane, but he wanted to go. Everyone who's in that 11 there wants to play for Liverpool Football Club, and that's enough for me. Liverpool will still be challenging for the league. We'll still probably get to the Champions League final. And I can't wait till the end of the year when I can just sit here and laugh at everyone. I really can't.
Well, we'll clip that up and we'll see what happens. But no, someone's just made an interesting comment. Actually, Curtis Jones, not on the match day squad today. Do we know if he's got an injury or anything? I haven't.
Still carrying his injury that he came back from. He was only on the bench for the midweek game just for numbers. He was never going to get on. I got told he's not due really to be back until probably next week or the week after, which looks a lot more likely.
Why would we put him on the bench then if he's not? There's no chance he's going to play.
I don't understand that myself, Owen. I believe if you're on the bench, you should be able to be played. But
I agree.
Apparently, he was on the bench to get for Newcastle just to fill a number, really. But he was never going to come on.
Crazy.
For me, Matty, on the season as a whole, like it's always funny because I always come down from my post-match anger after a tough result. So I'll always be like, all right, I'll mellow down a little bit. I'll go from like the most fuming. I don't hate the players, obviously, but for me, the issue has been we've pushed this team so far and we've come so close to doing so many things. We've won more than I had seen in my lifetime before this team. So I'm not ungrateful for what they've done, but it's only human to run into a wall, and it's harder to get past that wall time and time and time again. And you see how we play our football. It's very emotional. It's very like turning doubters into believers. And I love Klopp for that. But you look at how City do it. It's soulless. They're able to do it so effectively and efficiently like a machine. And they win more Premier Leagues than we do. And at the end of it, though, the one we won, for me, and obviously you can just say 4 is better than 1. The way we play, the way we do it, maybe it's not as conducive to winning the Premier League titles. I love it, though. I at times I'll be frustrated, but it's only because I want the team to play to their potential, because there are so many talented players in this team. But it's just, when I see us incapable of getting over the edge against Everton, against Fulham, against Palace, getting beaten by United, it makes it difficult for me to see a title push. I still think this team can make win 2 trophies this season easily. I think a Champions League, I have us as favorites for that. I think if you're not picking us for that, I didn't even read that.
I think that COD Patrol is. I don't think he's a Liverpool fan.
That's got.
I'm sure he's here for a laugh. He said some weird shit.
No, I mean, look,
I'm not sure that's how it works.
If you think Thiago's not that good, you don't understand football. You don't deserve to watch it.
Look, we win this game with Thiago, no doubt. Thiago is one of the most transformative players in world football, because you look at where we are now when we're a good but inconsistent side. Well, great but inconsistent side. Thiago, we're a great, consistent juggernaut with him. And if he can just stay fit, I think for me, Matty, I'll for your sake, I'll give us an out of winning the title. And that is if Thiago doesn't get a major injury for the rest of the year. Then maybe we can keep a push up. But for me, because we got 32 matches, we got 9 points. If we win 30 of 32, well, that's 90 points. That'd be an insane season if we won 30 or 32. But you would need 90, 95 probably to win the title. Maybe a little bit less this year. It's tough for me to see us getting through the slog this year. I think we'll win some trophies, but just
think if one injury to Haaland, City are fucked.
And
I don't think they are, though. They've played without a striker all of last year and won the league. I know Gabriel Jesus is a striker, and
yeah,
they used that
off. Then
they went on about that, all the time. But that's the thing. I always said that about Silva, but he started on the bench for a few of their games, and they ripped teams apart. Like they are very I think Kevin De Bruyne. I think if he gets an injury, they slow right down.
Him and Haaland are very injury prone, aren't they?
They won in 18-19 though, and De Bruyne was injured for most of that season. So,
but then he came in and gave them that.
Look,
took them to the line.
I agree that they are. It's going to be an interesting switch. They are now thinner squad-wise than we are. They still, I think, have much better quality and reserves immediately off the bench, because you look at those 5 midfielders, all of them are borderline world-class, if not world-class. So you have very little drop-off. But if one of them is knocked off, then all of a sudden you're really kind of slowing down. For me, it's tough to predicate a title victory on another team getting injured and getting bad injuries.
Their midfielders are a lot less injury-prone than ours. They might have only 5. But Bernardo Silva, Rodri, all the others, like they don't.
De Bruyne is the only one with injury history.
Even then, is he ruled out for a few weeks at a time? No, not really. Like maybe one game.
He's got as bad an injury record as Thiago. I think I'm gonna have to look now. I'm sure he has. De Bruyne gets injured quite a lot.
He's not.
Haaland's literally got the worst muscle problems. He's had muscle injuries every single year of his professional career. And I think last year he missed 18 games for Dortmund. Now, if you take out that 8 City team for 18 games, that's why I believe we'll win the league. Darwin Núñez, everyone's saying, oh, he's poo. But he scored 26 goals in 28 games last year. He's not poo. He's just at the right game.
I thought that Núñez was... I thought his touch today was pretty good. I don't know how you guys thought, but like it's every game I've seen him play, he's just gotten better and better and better. So
well, Anthony, I wanted to ask you.
19 games last year, Owen, for injury.
Sorry,
Anthony,
19 games De Bruyne missed
19.
just last year.
I didn't know that many. Fair enough.
Anthony, I wanted to ask you because I think every time. Where's this echo coming from? Is it me?
Is it Owen?
I can't hear an echo.
Hello? Oh, that's really annoying. I can hear myself talking. If anyone else can hear that echo, please let me know. But Anthony, yeah, what the hell?
Yeah, I can hear that as well.
It's gone.
Oh, that's it. I think. Yeah, that's it. It was Matty.
Matty, you're the one to go.
So right, bloody hell, where was I? Right, Anthony. A lot of people, when I think it's only natural because I think everyone is in agreement. We do need a midfielder, and we did need to sign a midfielder in the summer. We've got one in Arthur. Is he right? We don't know yet. Do we need another one? Probably. But from this point out, anytime we drop a result, it is going to be the conversation will instantly turn to what player could we have signed who could have resolved this game. But none of these games that we've lost, we haven't lost to teams where the starting 11 we've put out shouldn't have won. This is down to, for me, it's down to we're clearly trying to play a slightly different brand of football because we've got an out-and-out number 9 in Núñez. So we're trying to build towards optimizing his ability and getting him in behind, which is completely changing the roles of the wingers. So Diaz and Salah, they're being made to now play a lot wider, which they're not used to from the last few seasons. So is it really worth all this discussion about, our midfield needs new players, etc., when a lot of these games we should be able to win if the players on the pitch play to their best, and they're not.
I think that we always have to look back at the midfield, though. It's a huge weakness. It's not like it's like a bit of a drop off. It's a huge one where we go from look at the attack and defense look world class, and then the midfield's really like not championship standard, but sort of the lower teams in the league, that sort of standard, and it does cost us games whether we like it or not. And the matches we did drop points in, though, it's like you're saying we should win them beforehand, but performance-wise, we've been rubbish. I thought we were average against Everton. Man United is awful. Fulham, awful performance. And Palace, fairly decent, but we didn't create anything all match. So it's worrying because I don't think... I disagree with Matty. I think the league's done. We're in a top 4 battle this season, and other teams are improving. We've not improved, whether we want to admit it or not. Like, we sold Mane, we replaced him with Núñez, didn't bring a midfielder in, like a proper one, until the last day, and that's a loan. And like Owen said, we didn't replace Origi or Minamino, so I don't understand how we could compete for a quadruple again. I think Champions League, obviously this team's suited for Champions League. Like, we can play these fixtures with it. We would just stick for Champions League. We got to 3 finals in 4 or 5 years. So, but with the Premier League, that's why City are better. They sold Fernandinho, bought Calvin Phillips, and we say even if Haaland gets injured, they got Alvarez. He looks insane. They got their midfield, like Owen said as well. They don't get injured. They can replace Gundogan, Bernardo, De Bruyne, Rodri. The levels above us at the moment, I think. And we dropped how many points? Dropped points in 4 matches a season. We only dropped points in 10 last season, and we're nearly already halfway there. And it's only been 6 matches played, so I think we're in a top 4 battle. But it's nothing to look down on at the moment. Obviously, it's annoying, but that's the situation we're in. I think it's a sort of transition season for us, and we just need to get over it. To be honest, we can't keep complaining about same midfield every week because that's what we're going to do. But I think it's a top 4 battle, and I just think the midfield, our turn needs to start next match against Wolves or Napoli even, and hopefully we could get a good run of wins.
There was also Klopp just said that it was an injury for Carvalho that took him off. I think it was like a dead leg situation. So it wasn't like serious, like major injury, but that was why, he was pulled off. I just think like, I remember I think it was James who said in the chat one time, like Firmino is the 9 with Carvalho and Elliott as the 8s. Try and see what that kind of would look like. And I think like the 11 on paper looked really nice, but I think it just, it I don't know. It was frustrating. I think for me, it's I've said it before. I think it's like a little burnout. This team has just been pushed so far for so long with such a consistent group that we needed more signings. Not to like replace players that are bad, but just because players need pushing. Like Trent needs Ramsey to get fit behind him and be an actual threat. Robertson, I thought was okay coming off the bench. The last great chance we had was when he just drove forward with it after getting the throw from Allison. And I loved that. The amount of times that I saw Milner or Fabinho or even Robertson, Tsimikas pick up the ball with space to drive into, and they would almost just stand there, like just waiting for a pass to the side. It was infuriating to see that one moment was good. But I don't know. I don't think any signings would have changed what we do today because, as Matty mentioned, we're getting players back from injury pretty soon. And it's hard to, as much as it's kind of almost a meme where it was like that one tweet from like Simon Brundish where he's like, if you're signing a midfielder, you're going to be like, hey, kid, you're going to go be the backup for these guys. You only play the random odd matches. But it is a factor that, I'm not sure a player could have come in and made an impact on this match. It's just a mentality thing. And sometimes it's just tough to get that bit of luck. Pickford was great today, and he made a lot of great stops. And sometimes it's just upsetting. And I think fundamentally, Matty and I just have different ways of compartmentalizing our fandom. Matty's like just shooting for the stars. He expects that. I'm like cautioning my expectations. So I'm saying top 4. And if we challenge, Matty, I'm happy to be wrong. Happy to be wrong. But I'm a doubter. I said it in the chat. I turned off the Newcastle match in the 95th minute. I'm a doubter. I'm a disgraceful fan in some ways, but it was in some ways a more amazing feeling to like just see that alert on my phone. Like, oh my God, we actually did something. So,
well, Owen, I feel like Jack slightly touched upon what I was saying. Like, I feel like it's not mutually exclusive. Like, you can believe that we need a midfielder or 2 or 3, but also we have the squad and 11 to have won way more of these first 6 games.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Like, just because we still need strengthening doesn't mean that we haven't got the talent and the players out there already. The reason we want those players is to compete over the course of a season, over 12 months, or slightly less than that. But there's lots of games that you need to play, and you need the players there. But this early on in the season, with the players that we put out today, we should have easily be winning against Everton. I know it's a derby or whatever, but still, they're not very good, are they? They're not. If you watch them play in the past few weeks, you'll see that. So, we just need to control the possession better, up the intensity, and I think we will get there in the end. But it's just like, put it in your finger on what the problem is and why we're so inconsistent in spells of the game. Like, why are we not pushing on? So last 5 minutes stoppage time today, we were nearly going at it. Like, we should have scored. And there was space created. Why couldn't we have done that 20 minutes before? And why did Everton get so much of the ball? And why did they get so many chances, which they should not be getting?
This guy's definitely not a Liverpool fan. He said Thiago's overrated and Fabinho's a fridge, amongst other things.
it's my burner account.
Oh God. Thank you to everybody who has been getting involved in the live chat. Obviously not been able to read out too many of your comments. Let's just go through a couple now. Hyla says the change to a 2-man midfield was probably justified, so it wasn't wrong to do, but we lacked control for large parts of the game still, and it's not really enough to say we don't have options. To change it in the squad due to injuries, not everything can be done down to not having Thiago or Keita or a fully fit Jota or whatever. Again, similar point, Matty, that at the end of the day, the players that we're sending out, some of them are playing well, but as a team, it's just not quite clicking. Now, is that because they need more players behind them who can kick them into gear? Is it because we've now got a striker and we're trying to adjust to that and, to change from a false 9 to a complete striker is probably a lot harder than we give credit for such a well-oiled machine. What is the reason why we can't seem to get over the line in these games?
I think we're in a transition, to be honest with you. I think if we look at the side that we had, say, last year to now, there hasn't been many changes, but the whole system has changed the way Liverpool play. Mohamed Salah, as the main example, has not played on the edge of the box like he has done since he arrived at Liverpool. He's a lot wider, and he's wider because he wants to be that creative spark for Núñez. Same with Diaz. I know Diaz is cutting in a lot more than Salah this year, but I think the system's changed, and it's not going to be successful overnight. If you think back to when Klopp came in, it took about 6 months for the players to buy into the system and learn it. And yeah, I think we're in a transition. Like, RB as a false nine, there was nobody in world football who could do what he was doing. Absolutely nobody. So then switching to an out-and-out striker, which we've never had under Jurgen Klopp, you're then teaching 10 other players how to play that system. I think there's loads of Fabinho slander as well in the chat. I just think you're mad if you think Fabinho's being poor. He is not being his usual best because he's had weaker people in front of him and weaker behind him. If we play full strength, Fabinho is the best player, central midfielder in the world, in my opinion. But when he's playing...
Do you think he looks a bit leggy, though? I think he just looks tired.
I think he looks leggy because he's trying to do too much. So if he's got Thiago in front of him, Fabinho can solely focus on defending, whereas now he's trying to drive forward, he's trying to be creative, he's trying to be defensive. And similar to when we had the centre-back crisis, the midfield looked hampered as well because they're trying to cover the centre-backs. It's the same issue now. Today, though, I think Liverpool played really well. Same against Palace, same against Newcastle. We're not finishing our chances. We're not being clinical enough, but we're still making them chances. The minute that ticks, Liverpool steamrolling teams again. If you look at the shots we've had in the opening 6 games, we've probably had close to 100 shots. Yet we aren't being clinical enough with them shots, but that's all that needs to tick. We haven't been terrible defensively. We've made a few mistakes, but like the Crystal Palace game, that was a Nat Phillips mistake, who's probably not going to be close to the first team at all this year. Today, I thought we were really good defensively. The Connor Cody goal, although it was offside, I don't even think that was a poor defensive judgment. I think both players played well. And don't forget, when you're playing in a defence where as good as Costas was, that's still different to the norm. It's still a change. It's still a little bit weaker than what full health Andy Robertson is. So I just think the side's in a transition, and I'm not worried. I trust Jurgen Klopp. Like, the amount of times last year, everyone was like, oh, the league's done, this is done, that's done, and we got to all the finals and took the leagues the last day of the season. Like, I've learned in Jurgen Klopp's spell at Liverpool to never doubt this side. And like next week, if Darwin Núñez just clicks, he could score 4 or 5 goals. The positions he got in, he was fantastic. And arguably today, if Jordan Pickford didn't have the game that he did, Liverpool would have won 4 or 5. Because let's be serious, Jordan Pickford kept Everton in that game. And as much as I hate the little dinosaur, he was fantastic today.
Anthony, do you think... I think a lot of times people have accused... The biggest criticism Klopp gets, apart from the whole signings thing, is he often gets accused of not having a plan B, which I think some people here might think that as well, and maybe that's been shown on occasions. But again, me putting my 2 pence in on everything, I feel like when you're trying to play at such a high elite level, you have to go all in on something. There's no time to put aside an hour in training a day to work on something else. It's, Guardiola, yes, you make tactical tweaks in game, but he is drilling the exact same message into his team day in, day out. That's what Tuchel's doing, although not a good example now, but that is what Klopp is doing, and that is what has brought us this success. Now it feels like, because we've got Darwin Núñez, who is an out-and-out striker, and Firmino, who's still a false 9 when he plays, and Jota, who's kind of like a weird hybrid at the moment. Like, I'm not quite sure where to place him. Trying to go between those, whilst it feels like, oh, great, yeah, if Núñez isn't working, put Firmino on and change the system. At the minute, that's actually causing us to struggle a little bit, because we've got a lot of players trying to memorize 2 different things, and then suddenly a change is made and they've got to revert to playing one way or suddenly start playing the new way again. Do you think that's a realistic challenge that we're facing?
Like, I think Klopp said it before. He said if plan A doesn't work, then we make plan A better. Like, he doesn't have a plan B, so he does need to have one, though, because but to be fair, we did switch formation in this match, like to 4-2-3-1. So I'm sure he's not just got one plan of action, but you just don't know with the players. Like, at the moment, I don't even know what plan A is. I don't know what I'm watching when I'm watching these matches this season. It's just we're getting dominated. then 10 minutes we'll have a spell of possession, and then for the 20 minutes the other team will. So it doesn't seem like there's one clear plan at the moment, and obviously that will click over time. And like I've already said, we brought in like 3 or 4 different players, and Nunes especially. When you bring in a new sort of focal point, then it's going to have to take some time to adjust, and that's what the players have to do. But I just hope it happens sooner rather than later, man. Because although obviously I just said we're in the top 4 battle, we've still got more than enough quality once everyone's about to win the league. But if it carries on like this, then there's no chance we're winning the Premier League this season.
I feel like everyone's bolting to go and catch the 3 p.m. kickoffs and what have you. So we'll start to wrap it up now.
If we beat City, both games were above them. Where's the crisis then?
Arsenal. What about Arsenal? No, I'll go around everybody. Owen, we've had a chance to calm down a little bit. We've had a chance to talk some things out. What are your concluding thoughts on this, Owen?
We're in a bit of a pickle right now. Things aren't quite going the way we want. It's not quite clicking. But as Matty said, I still think this is kind of a transitional process, and it's not going to just happen overnight. They're going to be working at it. And yeah, I do truly believe that hopefully when we get a few other players back from injury and they're back into it fully, that we'll start getting the results. Because although at the minute the performance hasn't been as you'd expect, we are missing key personnel. And yeah, I just think that this is a different time, and things can only get better. We can't get any worse than we're currently playing, in my opinion. So hopefully from now on until the World Cup break, we can just go on a little run and just move up the table really at the minute. Because I'm not being funny. We can talk about the league. It's top 4, if that, at the minute. And we just have to make sure we kind of get into that bracket. And if we can do that, then fantastic.
Jack, you said it yourself. You kind of come down from your, initial post-match feelings. Where's your head at now?
In my opinion, right now in the Premier League, there are 5 players who will make, when their careers are done, will say they are part of the Premier League's all-time 11. That is Alisson, that is Trent Alexander-Arnold, that is Virgil van Dijk, Kevin De Bruyne, and Mohamed Salah. I think all 5 of those guys, when their careers are done, in terms of what will be in that top 11. We have 4 of them. It is frustrating for me that we are having a transitional period when we're at the apex of the careers of 3 of them. Not sure there's much different that you could do beyond maybe of bringing in Nunes but keeping Mane and just biting the bullet on him walking for a free. Because it'll probably take Nunes until after the World Cup to get fully adjusted. Getting used to England. He'll go play for Uruguay in the World Cup. Maybe he has a good World Cup. He gets a bounce there. But we really are going to, I think, live and die by him in a lot of matches. And I think the potential of this team, I think we made all the right moves this summer, personally. Ramsey's good long-term. I think Carvalho is going to be great long-term. Nunes, great long-term. Arthur, I think, has a chance to be a really savvy piece of business. The timing could have been better on some of them. But the issue is it might take a little bit too long. And I think we may have gotten a bit out of the gates a little slowly. So, think about it like a horse race or something. One rider gets a little slow out of the gates. And it's the fastest one for the last 3 quarters of it. But because they kind of stalled a little bit getting underway, they're going to finish just behind the leader. I would love for us to win another Premier League title. I want that more than anything. But for me, it's just tough for me to see this team controlling enough matches and dominating enough throughout an entire Premier League season to win a Premier League title. Top 4, it's not a given. I think we shouldn't take that as if like it's some baseline, we deserve of that. It would still not be, an outright failure. But we got a taste for silverware last year. We had 2 titles last year. It'd be tough to go another year without them after we kind of had the chance to really get the new Klopp contract. So I'm hopeful that, when the players start coming back from injury, Jota looked great, I think, off the bench. I thought he had some really nice moments considering he's not been back for too long. Great to see him back. Matip being back as well. I'm optimistic that we'll have better performances. Will we have the desired league goal at the very end of the season? I don't know. But sometimes, honestly, Matty, you were right about last year. The journey was pretty great. Even though we didn't win the Prem title, we got really, really close. And the journey was great as well. So sometimes, I just need to burn off a little steam, and then I can appreciate the journey again. But I think all things considered, after a draw we should have won against our biggest rivals, I'm about as happy as I could be, Louis.
Anthony, I feel like me and you are just quite calm people, no matter what, for good or bad. What are your thoughts, of having had this conversation?
I mean, we've always got to be optimistic. Jota, like Jack said, I forgot Jota even existed, to be fair. So he's always a plus. We've got more players coming back. Thiago's back, should be next week. So obviously we've got some good players coming back to look forward to, and hopefully I always put my eggs in the Champions League basket. I love when the Champions League is just a different feeling. So I probably I'm being a bit silly writing off Premier League, but yeah, I think we should look forward to players coming back and some good wins in the future.
Sorry, I've just read something that's pretty outrageous. Liverpool have been outrun in every single match this season. There's something wrong with that, isn't there?
If your aim is to control a game, then no.
We've had the shortest pre-season out of any side in the Premier. We came back.
We've had the most possession in most of those games as well, though.
Yeah.
But regardless, there's obviously still issues, because here we are. And Matty, round us off on this one.
Bill Shankly once said, if you can't support us when we're shit, don't support us when we're good, basically, in short. So just stick to that motto, because I honestly think come the Champions League game against Napoli, we're probably going to get beat, because that ground's impossible to go to and get a win. We always struggle. The meltdown will then start with the Champions League. 6 games into the season, we're literally 6 points off first. Arsenal will fall off. We beat City twice, we're above them. Like, it's not the end of the world. There's 6 games in. I'm the most optimistic person you'll ever see. Until it's mathematically impossible, Liverpool are going to win everything. I said it last year, and I was very nearly right. I'm going to say it again this year. I still think we challenge on all fronts. I think we win the Champions League. Hope to see everyone in Istanbul in May next year. I think we win the league. Hope to see everyone outside the ground partying in May next year. And that's that, really. I think we're in a transition. I think the minute Nunes clicks, we're fine. We're completely fine. Like Owen said, Thiago's back next week. We've only got Wolves next week, and then we've got Chelsea. So if Thiago's back for that, we'll dominate them. And then 2 or 3 wins back to back, Liverpool could find themselves second or first in the league, because there's the Premier League. Like Everton, if they perform how they did today against the likes of your Chelseas and your Cities and stuff, they won't get steamrolled by them either. Like Everton, it's a fair play to them. I hate them, but they were fantastic today. They've done the job perfectly. And that's the way to beat Liverpool and City. Just play 11 men behind the ball and just go on the counter-attack and see what happens. Newcastle have done it. Everton's done it to us. Palace done it to us. And they'll do it to City as well, as Newcastle shown. So City have dropped points. Every team's capable of dropping points in this league. Every team, every single one. It's the best league in the world. It's the most emotional league in the world. And I honestly think that you just need to have a bit more faith. Like having all the negativity and that, it's just not good for your own mental health. You know what I mean? Just think Liverpool are going to win anything and just face the disappointments at the end of the year if we don't, rather than having 10 months of just disappointing stuff. Just be happy. Like, this is the best Liverpool side I've ever seen in my whole life, and I'm just thankful to be a Liverpool fan, to be honest.
Just before we go, I'm seeing a tweet somewhere that Jurgen Klopp was hit by a plastic bottle thrown by an Everton supporter when their goal was disallowed. Now, if that's true, I hope there's media fume about it, the same way that everyone was really angry at Klopp for getting a bit raunchy during the Newcastle game. I hope people don't ignore that because they don't like Liverpool and that's all they really care about. That would be really, really bad and surprising. Thank you, everybody, for watching. It's been the post-match reaction. Everton 0, Liverpool 0. Thank you, Owen, Jack, Anthony, and Matty. Thank you to everybody in the chat as well. Please do make sure to join us tomorrow as well. We'll be live again at 7:30 as always. Thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next stream. Take care.